Alright guys, so I am right now revisiting the throttle system. Originally it was kind of set back here, somewhere back here, and what was happening is, it was too far away. I have short arms. So two things happened when I was on the Outback, and I think the first one is throttle needs to be forward but not sticking way out. So what I did is I rotated my FPV mount, which gave me literally, I would say maybe 3 inches so I can push it back a little farther. Then I decided to flip this back around, still using the shorter throttle system, which works beautifully. Now that I can read my numbers, it's not so far back here. That's giving me probably a good 6 inches forward on this. And remember, you could always swap this around and even come forward more if you want. But I don't like anything in my way, especially on the Hobie. But I do want this farther back. I felt that it was too close. So now that's going to be, like I said, whatever the distance here is, that's as far as it's going back. Now, the other thing that's going to happen is that this is going to pivot. Because under power, it's going to push that. It's going to push this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock this with either tie wraps, or I'm just going to drill into this, and I may just fully lock it. Haven't quite got there yet. Or the other option would be to run 2 of the long bolts completely through and lock it that way. So I haven't quite got there yet. I'm always a really simplistic person. So what's going to happen now, again, on future builds, you'll either be able to have a forward stick or a side stick. The difference is going to be that the throttle system's going to be cut down. Everything's going to be a little bit shorter, kind of out of the way. You can still have the rear if you want. I don't have long arms, so for me that's a no. That's just no, not going to happen. So I'm going to tear this down and show you guys how to clean this on the next video. A lot of people kind of don't really clean these right, and over time you don't want any corrosion. So I'm going to show you on this what needs to come off, what you can spray, what you can't spray, and then we'll go from there. That's going to be the next video. I'm just going to kind of tear down certain parts of this to show you what you guys should be cleaning on this after your adventure for the day. Honda is pretty robust as far as not corroding, but like any stainless or ferrous metal, because even stainless, if it's a cheaper stainless or you just don't clean it, will rust at some point. So this cowling cover is coming off, air filter is coming off, the assembly here comes off because there's a spring in there that needs to be cleaned. All this needs to be sprayed. Got to make sure any element that's up on top gets sprayed and cleaned. You can see kind of the salt spray that's on this. Same thing in the back. We're going to clean everything. So I'm going to tear it down first, show you what it looks like without the cowling, and go from there. Okay, so the covers are off, and this gives you kind of a 1, 2, 3 of the whole engine here. This doesn't need to come off. The cowling's one piece. It does slide out. You just kind of have to work it around your throttle system. You'll see, again, this is where the air cleaner goes. Cover goes on. It's literally one screw. This took literally 10 seconds. Very important in here. You want to make sure anything that's trapped, salt, or any kind of overspray that gets in there, clean it. Got your CDI box down below. This is your breather for your overhead valving system that goes in here. That's why if you happen to fill too much oil in it, you're sucking oil in your carburetor. No one listens on that one usually. So again, we're going to just kind of do a quick wipe down on this. This is, by the way, guys, don't remove this. Try not to soak this. Okay, it is a gasket. Even though it's exposed, it is a gasket. There's the flame arrestor right there. Again, careful on this. This is steel, even though it's coated. Still need to clean it. Okay, we're going to pull this off afterwards, clean that, because there's a spring in there that needs to be cleaned and greased. And you'll see back in here, you can pull this off, and I'll show you what that looks like, because typically we get a lot of water in here, but it usually just drips on the head. I mean, on top of the crank, that is. So I don't think we need to pull that off, but anyway, it does come off. It's 3 bolts, comes off, put it right back on. I'll see if I can show it to you guys. I'll pop it off. So you'll see, literally, I didn't do anything except take the 3 bolts off, and super important, you can see some of the salt spray in there. You want to clean it. Spray it. Definitely not going to hurt it. There's no crank shaft seal in that. Don't worry about it. This is what it looks like up on top. Again, and then underneath, nothing's going to come flying out. But you can see in there, you want to make sure it's all clean. I'm very anal about greasing things, and sometimes it's a little bit too much, but I'd rather be on the safe side on that. So I'm going to spray it down in here, wipe it as I spray it. You can let it sit on there, it's not a big deal. And anything that's exposed that you see salt, get used to just cleaning it. It's super simple. And then we'll do the top first. I'm going to reassemble it, and then I'll do the tiller and the adjuster, show you where the spring is there, and that's that. This will take literally a few minutes. All right, so I just did a quick clean on top. You'll see, I mean, it took seconds to do. There's always a little bit of a shine with the WD-40 since it's got a kind of a fish oil base to it. Clean it, man. Spray it down. I sprayed all this, let it sit for a minute, cleaned it off. Same thing up here. You know, you can't hurt it, guys. If you get a little extra, won't hurt nobody. Same thing here. I always make sure I get my bolts. Now I do re-grease the main here. That's the cowling cover. Same thing up here. I always grease them because, man, fittings are expensive. All right, there we go. So I'm going to put the pull starter back on. Oh, let me show you something, by the way. So when you're getting water spray coming in, take a look at this. You can see all the spray coming in. There's your muffler. That's the muffler plate. And you'll see it resting down there. So the water is definitely getting in from spray, and it's just sitting there. So that means it's going to wind up trickling towards the bottom. So you want to clean this too. Same thing up on top. Clean it. It's not going to hurt anything. I mean, it's not bad. Now you can also take those bolts out there. You can take those off, pull the cover off if you really want to get in there deep. You can. Otherwise, just wipe it clean. Air filter's good. Nothing's obviously in here. Of course, when you get to this, again, hit the bolts, clean it. WD-40 in the plastic won't hurt anything. That's it. So let me reassemble real quick, and then we'll do the next piece. All right, when you guys are ready to put the cowling back on, I'm going to save you guys a little bit of headache. Loosen your throttle. Get the kind of the throttle cable to be a little bit more understanding as you slide this past it, so you're going to have to pull that out of the way. And this is loosey-goosey now. And then back here where the ground is, negative ground for the kill switch, you want to make sure it's not being impinged anywhere in there. Okay, this goes behind the gasket. It should slide right in. You'll see here there's a groove that fits perfectly inside of the back enclosure, and that's it. It should not be forced. It should pop right on. Once it screws in, that's it. You're good on that. Okay, air cleaner's back on. Make sure you get the two clips on correctly, otherwise it won't go on right. I also want to show you guys what I use here. It's a corrosion block grease. It's waterproof grease. This stuff is the bomb. It works great. It's blue. I don't use bearing grease. Do not use bearing grease, guys. I know, I mean, if it's the last resort, I get it. You need something that's going to withstand water. It's going to repel water. So I use this on all my fittings, all my springs. Anything I can get the grease between, I hit it. Trust me, if you've seen any of my builds, you see there's grease everywhere until I wipe it down. All right, so when you guys go to lay down the pull start, you got to make sure that these little kind of bushings that center and keep the vibration down on the gas tank, that you got to make sure you put those on. This again just slides on. There's no clicking. It literally just again follows down, and then from that point put your screws in. You'll see them up on top. I haven't cleaned it yet, but that's it. And then grease your screws, because remember, you get a lot of water back here as it comes over from running, so you want to make sure that that stays perfect. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys the other part here. This isn't, if you're in salt water, you definitely need to do this, you know, here and there. So in here is a spring, and of course it'll trap water in there, as you guys can see. I grease all this. I grease my spring. I spray all this with my WD-40. Right here is your clutch housing bearing. You want to give a little bit of WD-40 in there, but make sure you always get that, because that is imperative to your clutch always working correctly. Inside of that has a drum that rotates in a bearing. You want to make sure you hit that. People neglect that right there. If you guys can see it, you'll see. I'm going to spray that in a minute. I'll show you what it looks like. So you'll see that's how much I put in. I pack it. I don't usually take it off too much, but since I haven't done it, this is the new build, I need to do it. Here you'll see where the tiller is. You want to make sure you get that as well. You'll see there's a little bit of grease in there, but I am going to clean all this in a second. Definitely want to pack that once in a while. Remember, all the maintenance on this is not every single time. It's just if you get blasted, you want to make sure you know how to take this thing apart.